All right, we are back. We are still, I guess we're back still in Florida. Another episode, a few points.
We've never left.
I know we never left. But it's like in podcast world, though, this is like 2 weeks later.
This is great. I'll be home.
Still the same night.
Is this the modern version of time travel?
I guess it is.
Like, don't you wish we had like the lottery numbers in the last episode and we could have gave them to everybody in this episode?
Podcast number 3 within 24 hours.
Yeah.
And we're
Two
still
pizzas later.
Who are you going to drag home tomorrow? Jeez.
I wish we could get Greg. What could you imagine a podcast with Greg and Bridget?
You just need to. You wouldn't get a word in edgewise.
Maybe if we got Greg and Bridget on here, nobody would think we talk as much.
We know about everything.
I shouldn't say we. It's pretty much me.
We would know everything that happened between 1974 and present, and we know all about taxes.
I think Bridget is a walking tax encyclopedia, and Greg is a walking equipment encyclopedia. I guess we should mention who we're talking about. So we're down here at the Florida auctions. We got Mike from Dirt Boss here. We're going to have. We'll get to you in a minute.
Sorry.
Chris Letsdig18. But we've been hanging out with Clint and his dad down here with CNC Equipment, and it has been awesome. They've been a lot of fun. And his dad, man, every time we walk up to an old vintage piece of equipment, he has to tell us how much it costs new, which is pretty cool. And I think he's pretty dang accurate. So
yeah, for sure. Experience counts on that one, for
yeah.
sure.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. So. But anyways, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Mike, Dirt Boss, Tri-County Masonry. What are we going to go by?
Yeah, well, you said it.
Dirt Boss.
Dirt Boss is good, yeah.
So Dirt Boss is the name of the YouTube channel.
Yep.
And obviously we met through YouTube. And we've met a couple times. It was the second time we met in person. We've talked on the phone a dozen times maybe. Had you on a live feed a while back, but I mean, I don't know a whole lot about you at all. So let's go back to the beginning.
All right.
New York.
Yep, New York, Albany, New York.
I mean, I never would have guessed from the accent and the attitude. I mean,
Never.
I thought for sure Texas. I got Texas. I was guaranteed.
Yeah.
Day one. Tell us how it started. I'm great at this. Go straight to the point. No glamour.
We have to make this last an hour, Chris. We got to pull back the throttle just a little bit. So New York's a big state. You can't be from all of it. What part?
Upstate.
Upstate?
Yeah, northeast.
I think there's a couple other YouTubers up there in your neck of the woods.
We got the big guy. Well, this is the big deal over here. Yeah. But then we got the big guy.
There's only one person knows what he's doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't do that while I'm done drinking Pepsi. That's how you
Too many electronics around
there's
here.
still be electronics around here for untimed jokes there. So, but you grew up in that part of. I mean, you were born and raised there.
Yeah. Yep.
You're saying your family had a pretty good little size farm up there.
Yep.
So only child. You got siblings?
Say it again.
Is it only child? You got siblings?
No, I got a sister. Older sister. She actually lives here in Florida.
Here in Florida.
Yeah, she's down in southern Florida.
So growing up, I mean, what was like? I mean, I don't know. I feel like New York to Indiana feels like a whole different country because you guys do stuff and got such a different mentality up there. So
everybody thinks New York is the city.
Everybody thinks it's kind of jungle.
It's just a little tiny dot on the whole
That's a
entire...
speck. That's not even in the state, really.
So I don't know how to ask this though. Like, what's it like? I mean, you're kind of in the rural part of it.
Yeah, it's country. I mean, honestly, like when I was down in Derby, our back roads are like that too. So we got mountains, we got cornfields, soybean, the whole works, And then we got little cities in between.
So, like for example, how many people were in your graduating high school class?
170.
It's about. I mean, there was 110 in mine, so that's not too far.
Yeah, about 300. So.
Yeah,
not too far.
That's it. I mean, that was back then. Now that school's probably quadrupled.
Right.
But,
so growing up, I mean, we always have the same conversation. Were you a good kid?
Typical ADHD kid. Crazy, wild. Don't learn my lesson until about the sixth time. But
you do that in business, you'll be bankrupt.
No, that's right. So I did learn my lesson. It's like. School was tough, it was tough going to school, and
You know, that seems to be the common denominator with a lot of us. You know, we were talking about you with it in the last podcast. Was it's not that we're bad at school; we just don't have interest in school. We have if it's something we're interested in, we'll focus on it and learn it.
Right.
But if it's something that don't interest us,
it's just like
that's the way it was.
You can just be talking. I'll just be sitting there daydreaming the whole time.
Yeah.
They look at you like, "And what do you think?" I don't know exactly.
Is this English or social or English or math?
I can remember I had this one subject, and the teacher said, "How did you do this?" I mean, you got 90s on this, and I enjoyed it. You know what I mean? That's once you get my interest,
right?
You put your mind to it, you can do it. You know, and that's why I love this kind of work, my business. You know, I don't feel like it's work. I love it.
So, was there anything you excelled in? I mean, sports, English, math.
Yeah, I played football, wrestling. I mean, I love that.
Right.
I love sports. You know.
So going on through, correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not really familiar with your story, but your dad had a pretty successful business with you growing up, correct?
Yep. He was Mason, by trade. Family business. His brother was the same way.
So Mason by trade, elaborate on that a little bit. Everybody thinks of a Mason. The first thing they think is the guy out there just laying concrete block foundations. But I mean, a Mason is, I'd almost consider to be an artist. I mean, there's a lot more.
We did full custom masonry, stone arches, real stone. You know what I mean? They show us a picture, we make it come to life.
Gotcha. So, what was that a trade he learned? Did his dad do it, or how did
his
he?
His brother, which basically his brother's 20 years older.
Okay, so there's a pretty good little age difference.
So he basically was his father. My father, which would have been my grandfather, he had passed when my father was a child.
So your older, I guess it'd be your uncle, would be the
right. And he's still living. He's 86 now.
Really?
Yeah.
So your dad's clicking along pretty good in the masonry business, and from what I understand, that turned out to be a pretty good little business there.
Oh yeah.
So was the bread and butter residential stuff, or did you get into the commercial?
Yeah, he did commercial when I was younger, and then he did a lot more residential, and then the masonry business is just a dying breed. So,
yeah, it is. It's like a lot of trades. Unfortunately, it's just kind of I don't know if the masonry business went from a structural business to a architectural business. Does that make sense?
Right.
Like, there's less of them being built out of brick and mortar, and more of them being prettied up with brick and mortar. Right. And they got so much of this.
Yeah,
as soon as the culture stone came in and all that, nobody was going to pay the square footage price of real stone or brick when they could get this fake stuff for a third of the price, and you don't really need a mason to do it because carpenters started doing it, tile setters started doing it, so it really killed the price. So, we did a lot of flat work and stuff like that.
So did you start working for your dad straight out of high school?
Yeah.
So the day you graduated, you're full time, and what was your what was your role with the company? Like, what did you do there?
Labor. Just mix mud and get abused, man. I got more mud on the back of my neck and thrown in names and from my uncle and
whatever you did, it wasn't enough.
It wasn't enough. Never. A lot of years.
I mean, I've been mud boy a few times on a few bigger jobs, and that is
the grunt work.
Yeah, that grunt work's an understatement.
But I mean, it makes you work for masons. It gives you a good work ethic.
Yeah, because you can never mix the mud right. I figured that out.
The temperature, one day it's hot, cold, everything's different.
And the other problem is whenever you show up on a job, masons never work from the top down. They always work from the bottom up. So everybody's all happy and hunky-dory on the first couple passes. Then they're up on scaffolding, and you got to pack the mud up, and everybody's peed off and cussing and carrying on.
Right.
And by the time
minute you start going up, you lose production because now you got to stock. Then they got to bring the mud up. So you're slowing it down. That first 4 foot is your fastest production.
Now, do you purposely try to spill as much as you possibly can? Because it just seems like once you get about 4 foot high, you're taking it and you just fling half of it on the ground.
Yeah, it's so do you I know we were talking about this the other day, Farmer Chris, for example, he installed sprinkler systems forever, so he'll walk into a place and pick out, like one's not centered in a tile or this, that, or the other, and we pick stuff up. So you walk up to a stone job.
I'm watching a movie, anything. I'm like, look at that stone.
No,
drives me nuts.
I was like, that's why,
well, that looks good to me. No,
that's why I couldn't have a brick house because I was like, I know it's not going to line up right. And every time I come home and be like, damn, that column's not right.
Oh yeah, my in-laws' house, they got this little bump out on the front, and the head joints look like a snake going up through there, and I'm like, it just makes me sick to look at it. And I mentioned something to Jenna or something one day. She's like, well, it's brick. Like, she just don't even see that, I mean, it's just brick to her. And I'm like, oh, boy. So was this a true family business? I mean, was it just your dad, your uncle, and you, or?
Yeah, well, he had employees, so.
So, like, how big a company are we talking? Do you have 30 people, 100
No,
people?
5, 6, 8, every year fluctuated.
So was that like multiple crews, or you guys all working together?
We had two. Well, once I got old enough and started really taking with the business, we had two crews going. I ran one and he ran one.
Gotcha. So what was the bread and butter work? Was it all residential work?
It was 70-30. We did 30% commercial. We had a 5-year span from, say, 2008. For that next 5 years, we did all commercial. We worked doing the VA hospitals and stuff like that. So
you guys were doing some pretty big jobs.
Yeah, we were doing good jobs. That's when, I started getting the excavating. We were doing excavating down in there. That's when I started, about 2008.
So did your dad have any equipment at all?
A skid steer. Yeah, I begged him to buy a skid steer. I'm like, we need a skid steer.
We need to move stuff around.
He was the type.
I need a powered wheelbarrow.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
He
Correct.
was the, for him to have a mixer, was a big deal. He was, when we would go to jackhammer, big slab out, it was sledgehammer. Garage floors, sledgehammers. And
Jeez.
I would beat for 2-3 days on the garage floor. We would load it in hand in his 1 ton, load that garage floor out.
So we're talking old school.
Oh, yeah. We did that for years. And then one day, a guy let us borrow a jackhammer. First thing I started doing that. I just looked at him and go, "You son of a bitch!" I can't believe you all these years.
One of these.
So we ended up buying a jackhammer, and then once I get old enough to see all this stuff, I'm like, my wheels are turning. I'm working more efficient now.
Yeah, we're coming out of the
No,
store.
we're 3 guys out when one guy can.
He's
go
like,
there.
you're trying to tell me I can put this jackhammer on my skid steer? Yeah. Get out of here!
Exactly.
So this is, this is clicking along, and I'm just kind of curious because you're in pretty much the excavating business now. So where'd the passion for equipment come from?
Well, I always had the passion, dump trucks, equipment. But again, that was my job with him, and I was a mason by trade also. So, and don't get me wrong, it was great. And but we started doing, rebuilding foundations on houses, and we were subbing out or renting an excavator, or subbing out an excavator to come and dig it out for us. And I'm like, you know what? Why are we wasting this money? Blah, blah, blah. So we started renting the excavators, and I'm running them, and next thing you know, I bought one,
Right.
One thing led to another with that.
So before we get too far down the excavating path, I'm just kind of curious, like, what is a standard foundation for a home in middle central New York or wherever you're at, upstate New York? I mean, is it 8-inch or 12-inch concrete block or?
8-inch block. We don't have too many. In the 50s, all the houses were block. So basically, they were all rotted and gone. Jack up a house, put a whole new block under there, or just one wall.
Gotcha.
They bow in,
right,
dig it out, replace that wall.
Are basements very common where you're at?
All of them, about, yeah.
All of them are basements?
Yeah, a lot of them are basements 8 foot, but now they're 9 foots. And they're all poured mostly now.
Yeah, back in the block days, it was either a 12 or 13 block basement. That was the difference between an 8 and 9 foot a lot of times.
Yeah. So the blocks, they used to dredge the sand out of the Hudson River, which that is half salt water, It comes up from the ocean. So all those blocks would be rotted after 40 years.
So whenever you say
the salt
would just deteriorate.
Yeah, you're saying
So all those houses made by that company, all those blocks, junk,
You're saying the house rotted. The first thing I'm thinking of is the wood. I never even thought the concrete block would be
the foundation. So would they just get to where it just starts?
Yeah, you can just take your finger and just scrape it out.
What they have to do?
And
tear the whole house down, or
jack it up, replace the foundation, for triple the price that you would if you there wasn't a house there,
I mean, we replaced some foundations around home. I've jacked a few up and replaced some walls, but not because the block fell. It's because the wall, the system failed.
Yeah.
But That's crazy that the block will just crumble away, and concrete block has a lifespan. Whoever knew?
Yeah, well, with the salt and then the moisture gets in there, and it's that
game
chemical
over.
reaction just eats it over time.
So basically, you guys are redoing these foundations, which requires you to have equipment. So, did your dad's company start acquiring equipment, or did you start acquiring equipment? Or?
No, I did, yeah. So I basically, early 20s, I'd say, I got a DBA, Tri-County Masonry, that's what it was. Working on the weekends, just hustling on the side, night jobs, blah, 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 making money. And just kept that going. I was getting a lot of calls, a lot of work, and then I got a website. And then, then he sees all the work coming in. So then we just basically said, hey, I'm bringing as much work as him. Let's partner up 50-50. And we did that for.
So the whole time, though, that you guys were still working together, you just kind of worked, you kind of started over here on your side. And were you, how am I going to say this? Were you getting 50% of everything, like profits and?
Yeah. Well, not in the beginning.
Right.
Until we partnered up. But, I was doing the night thing and all that stuff. But.
So what, I guess what was the driving factor, or what was the decision maker in just not building on that business you may inherited versus starting your own? Was he didn't quite, you had to prove to him that there was value in this excavating stuff?
Yeah, I think he saw that there was value in what I was bringing into, because he wasn't, he would never ever have a smartphone.
Right.
He's old school. He just didn't even, you know what I mean? So once he's seen the work I was bringing in, and, it was just a no-brainer. He just said, this next job that we did together, he goes, let's split it. And I said, all right. So then,
Well, I mean, for a guy of his generation, obviously I never met your father, but from a guy of his generation to have the foresight to see the value in that and where it was going, and the times were kind of outrunning them, I think is pretty big, because I don't know if a lot of people would have done that. What's your thoughts on that?
Change of times.
Me and him, our relationship was like no other. Everybody that's seen us work for all those years say never seen a father and son duo work and not argue. We work side by side.
Right.
We breakfasts, lunch, and dinners every day, and work and never argue. But he kind of let me take the lead. You know what I mean? I think now that he's gone, I see. He swallowed it a little bit more, his pride.
And knew that it was time for you to shine.
Yeah, but from the outside looking in, that's a pretty big observation, because you hear so many stories the other way around of
they'll never let go of the reins until.
Yeah. No, he was good with that.
And you were able to learn a lot more from him, because you were able to experience more from him while he was still alive.
Yeah.
And, like we talked before, experience is everything. My dad got killed in an accident before I really got started, and I can't help but think from time to time how it would have been if he was still here. And I don't think it would have been all like what you were talking. I think there would have been some arguing and some hollering and some carrying on and some disagreements, and him convinced. I don't think it. Let's just say I don't think it would have went quite like that. It's the best way I know how to put it. Not that it would have been bad, but it would have been.
Yeah, we never got in arguments like that. It was like how you and your uncle is. It's like if I'm loading his skid steer bucket, he just knew. We just knew what we were doing. Yeah. If it was finishing a floor, I'm behind. We all knew we knew our next move, so we knew we could make money together, and it was good.
So I know you guys did a bunch of flat work concrete. Yeah. Did you guys ever get into vertical poured concrete?
Nah, 4-footers. He did it back in the 80s. He had big panels and stuff, but the business went backwards. I could always remember him saying that, and he just,
Do you think he was a little bit ahead of his time with them, or?
It could have been because they didn't have boom trucks then or nothing, and they were hustling them panels in and out of the hole, and they were metal.
A lot of work and labor intense.
And pump trucks weren't near as common either. I mean, that's what makes.
And they were rear loaders back then, and now everything's front loaders now. But
just trying to get the materials and the forms and everything there was just.
But he did a lot of
challenge.
But it's amazing how efficient those old timers were at getting stuff done, just because they're willing to get their hands dirty and make it happen.
Yeah. It was the only way it was going to get done.
Yeah, it's crazy. So back to our timeline here a little bit. So basically, you guys are 50-50 now. You're acquiring equipment. He's still pushing the masonry stuff along. You guys are kind of running, I guess, side by side.
Yeah, and it was good. It's like when the excavation was slow, the masonry would hold up its end, and we'd always have something to do. It was always always had 2 crews going.
So the masonry on the excavating business, did it pretty much like, were you doing a lot of the excavating jobs that pertained to the masonry business, or were you out trying to find just strictly excavating? I guess excuse me, whenever I'm trying to get to, whenever I had my excavating business and my construction business, 90% of my excavating business was doing work for the construction business. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because it was hand in hand for sure. That we didn't. At that point, I wasn't just trying to just do excavating. You know, we were still setting scaffold and stone in the house or this or that. It was, you know, excavating when it came. That's what we were doing, and we weren't pushing it big.
So in the beginning, like what was the first piece of equipment you acquired on your own?
Well, the first piece was a tractor, and you know, like I said,
was it a Kubota?
No.
Everybody's got to have a tractor.
Yeah. You know.
Was it more than 35 horse?
Yeah, it was more than 35 horse.
More than a homeowner now.
We're
That's the threshold. Professional.
I had that
landscaper.
Tractor. I had that tractor, and I you know, I did a lot of brush hogging driveways and whatnot with it, and then I ended up selling it.
Well, what was
excavator? It was a Z-Tor. It's called.
Oh, that's why it wasn't saying it's worse. It's worse than Kubota.
It was a good tractor. Come on.
What, a Z-Tor?
Yeah.
Was this made by Zorro or
Czechoslovakia?
Did you pick this thing up at Roll King or Home Depot or something?
No, this thing's a stout tractor. Telling you, I'm stout.
So good you don't have it today, right?
Yeah. But no, you know, not to get off topic, but I always was on equipment. Even from 10 years old, my grandmother always had tractors. I brush hogged all the fields and did the driveways and everything for everybody. So then I bought my own tractor, did that, and then I ended up buying a Hitachi URG 50. Was my first mini. It was a 12,000-pound machine.
Gotcha. So were you moving this with your pickup truck or?
No, I had a single. Well, I had my first dump truck I bought was a Silverado 1-ton.
Gotcha.
86 diesel
86. Did it have the 6.2 in it?
Yeah.
Oh, good God.
Gutless but reliable. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that thing would run like a scalded dog downhill.
10-foot box on it. Nice truck, 2-wheel drive. You load over the side, throw the blocks over it. I love that truck.
Yeah, them 6.2s, man, they were pretty good in motors as long as you didn't get them hot.
Yeah.
But they would not get out of their own shadow.
Oh, no.
They were.
I didn't tow with it. I just used that for hauling materials and stuff. And then I sold that, and then I bought an International T44E. T444E, yeah. And that was gutless, too. That was like a school bus, But I was moving up, you know what I mean? There was a bigger box.
Right.
It was Allison automatic in that one.
Well, I think that's we've talked about that a bunch on this podcast. If you're going to start off, we even talked about with Chris a little bit in the last one. You got to start off within your means and work and stair step your way up because
so it can get real quick.
Oh yeah,
right.
Yeah, I mean, I would always, you search these deals, you buy the best thing on Craigslist or whatever it was at that time to want to digest.
Somebody's going to be listening to these podcasts and hear us talk about Craigslist, and we're going to show our age. And now it's Facebook.
At least we didn't pull up the old machinery.
Did you guys have the thrifty nickel?
We had the books. I remember when little you pick up the
still get the books.
Yeah, and you sitting there looking through there, just daydream that way.
You look at the same picture 5 times.
Yeah, I used to always remember going
to the corner of the page. You fold the corner back of the page.
One of these days, we're gonna hit it big time, and we're gonna have something out of this book. So I'm trying to think if I ever bought anything on Machinery Trader. I don't think I have.
I've browsed at a lot of stuff.
Yeah, for sure. So, so you're still working with your dad 50-50 and acquiring equipment. So was there a purchase that was like a game changer in the business?
After the 50, I ended up getting rid of that. A week later, I bought a Komatsu PC75, and that was, I would say, a real machine, you know what I mean?
Gotcha.
As far the 50 URG, it was whatever it is, what it is.
It opened you up to a bigger variety of work.
Yeah, you looked a little more professional. So that was a good
something
machine.
I want to hit on just kind of randomly here real quick because you and Ed got the same take on this. Like down home where I'm at, it don't matter what the hell your equipment looks like, your work does the talking.
Right.
Like, you can go in there with the most clapped out thing ever, but if you do a good job, that's all everybody talks about.
I don't know. If I mean,
down home, that's the way it is. It don't matter.
And not back home, people are like, oh God.
Yeah, see,
you pull up with some old clapped out thing, they're like, oh boy, did we get the right person or not?
Not down home. They don't give two craps. I've never had anybody one time down home say anything about the way my equipment
the problem
looks.
is where we are. There's so many people with the decent stuff, or with a nice pickup truck that goes to do an estimate, and then you got this guy in a, rusted out, no muffler, this and that, and not that his work's not going to be any.
I'm not saying
worse.
it could be that bad, but I mean, like, your equipment's not a status of how well your business is doing.
Right.
People judge you by your work, not your equipment, and apparently in your guys' world, that's completely different.
Well,
Not
to an
100%,
extent. I mean,
there's a lot of people with all that fancy equipment and trucks are going to go bankrupt.
Well, that's my point. Is I mean,
there's first hiccup.
There's a guy down home, and I mean, everything's brand new. It's the nicest damn shit you see in your life. And you pull into a job site, and you're like, "What kind of freaking gopher bomb went off here?" I mean, it's the damnedest shit you ever see in your life.
Well, it's not. He didn't grow up the way we did, operating from kid.
And then there's another guy down the road that, I mean, I don't even know. He's got panels caved in, all the glass is missing. I mean, it's bad, but he can clean up a job site of that track better than most people could with a skid steer. You know what I mean? It's just, and he's twice as busy as the guy with the new equipment, just because everybody cares about the work, not the equipment. They just look past that. I had this conversation with Evan Full Tilt Grading. I'm like, why do you spend all this money on this equipment time and time again? He's like, well, I got to keep up with the Joneses. And I'm like, nobody gives a crap about the Joneses where I'm at. So,
I'll probably do it more for myself than anybody else. It's like,
He's in the commercial game too. He's got to have reliable stuff. There's no doubt.
Yeah, but hell, my most reliable. I don't buy that bullshit either. Because my most reliable stuff's my old stuff.
The older stuff, yeah.
I can guarantee you that my old 304 with no emissions on it will not ever go to the dealer again. And Ed's got his stuff in there occasionally here for nitpicking stuff, not major stuff, but I can repair everything. I can repair pretty much everything on that 304 with either a call to the dealer or a trip to AutoZone. Ed don't even know what's wrong with his until he has a dealer come out and hook up to it. So I don't buy the reliable car part either. You know what I mean? I don't know. I don't see it. And you guys, I know this is going to be a surprise, you guys watching my channel, but I don't really care. I mean, I don't want my panels caved in and my windows busted out, but if my floorboard's dirty or my counterweight's scratched, I don't lose sleep over tonight.
We have already accepted that, Mike.
I'm not hiding the fact that there's a difference between a well-maintained piece of equipment that's still intact I don't know. My equipment's not a status statement to me. I don't know. Never has been, never will be. I'm proud of what I got, but
I just try to keep up with it for resale. You know what I mean? Because like I said, even these, like, to get back to my excavator chain, you buy reasonably cheap. You look for it on these, advertisers.
Yeah, but I'm sorry, I'm blowing holes in your theory here, but your resale, you don't make money when you sell. You make money when you buy. So as long as you bought it right, it don't matter.
Well, see, that's not my theory, because if I buy something for $10,000, I'll have it for 5 years and sell it for $18,000 because I kept it good, maintained the paint.
Yeah, but you made your money when you bought because you bought it for the right price.
Right,
so,
right. But you could make it on both ends. That's just the way I was able to get as much equipment as I have with not as much money. You know what I mean?
Well, and to your point, I mean, I guess we're kind of saying the same things in different ways, because I've bought equipment for $10,000. We'll just use that as an example. It was in rougher shape. Slowly fixed it up, put the glass in it, or swept out the floorboard, or fixed the cylinder it was leaking, fixed it up a little bit, took care of it, and then used it and sold it and made money. And that's how you climb the ladder to get up.
Because you can't afford to buy where you are now back then. But you can get this ladder. You're just using that money, and it just keeps building and building. And next thing you know, you're into a $100,000 excavator, and you're like, really, my only investment's started way back here, and I didn't really put much money.
Now you don't want to get rid of it.
Well, I think we can all three agree that one reason we're successful in business is because we controlled our debt.
Yep,
debt management, and I've always, my version of debt management is if something happened, whether I got hurt or the economy crashed my equipment can sit for a year and I'm not going to go bankrupt.
Right.
Tuck it away in the corner, let it sit there and let whatever happened pass and go. I mean, a lot of people can't let their equipment sit for a month.
Right.
And that causes them to do desperate things and gets them in trouble.
No, I know. I see guys digging 3 foot of frost out for 4 foot frost walls right now, and they got it because they'll beat the shit out of that machine, crack the boom, so they can make the payment. And I'm like, dude, my shit's sitting right there.
Just leave it right there. Worry about that one time.
I'll be back in a month.
Yeah. So we got a little off track there. I apologize for that. So the Komatsu 75 was what you kind of considered to be the game changing piece of equipment. Opened up a lot of doors for different type of work.
Yeah, I was able. We were just doing a lot more, bidding on a lot more excavation projects. Just not big stuff, but smaller stuff.
Right.
And after that, I bought a 200, and I would say that was probably the game changer because I got.
Was that a Komatsu or that
Kobelco?
Kobelco.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a Mark III.
A guy like me. I feel like they left out one here. I'm the only one that don't have a 200 series machine.
Kobelco.
I like Kobelco.
My uncle ran them for years and loved them.
What year was it? Or is
that was a Mark III. That one.
Mark III. That would have been mid 2000s.
Yeah, 98, I think.
I was about to say that had the silver cap.
Yeah, silver cap.
That was the first one I had spent on. It was a decent machine.
Yeah, a powerhouse. I'm telling you.
Back in the day, I mean, it was a nice machine.
Yeah.
Like,
And that thing was stout. I bought that thing with 3,500 hours on it. It was a farm machine. A farmer had it. Someone had kicked the window in and stole electronics out of it, and so it was all mechanical. He made it, but it ran, and it ran good, and I had that for 10 years,
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's... So how did you... At some point in there, are you moving your own equipment? Because you bought a truck and a trailer.
Yeah, I was moving everything besides the 200. That I would get that low boyed around with local people or whatnot. But, I always moved my own stuff.
Gotcha. So as you're going down this path, I mean, at some point, did you and your dad kind of venture apart from each other, or did you guys stay together?
We stayed together right about 2015. It was getting each year at the end when we slow down in the winter. We'd have this talk. Dad, I don't know if I want to do this next year. I want to do other things, because I want to, I want to go into excavating, and
right.
He's wanted to keep the masonry, keep it simple. He didn't want to, it wasn't fair to me to buy, want to spend, $50,000 on a machine or an attachment or something, and he didn't, want to put half into it,
right.
Then reap the benefits. So
yeah, he's getting half of it, but only contributing.
Right. So and he said, no, I will, but he, I didn't want to push him to it. So I
mean, obviously, you're enjoying the excavating path at this point, and it's obviously. I'm not a mason, so I can't speak from experience. But an excavator's got to be a lot less tolling on the body than a mason, because that's a very, very labor intensive job.
Yeah, and the masonry business, you need men. The excavating, you really don't. You need a labor. Right. And what I've been doing is just buying attachments to keep. Instead of to make my life easier, not have a labor if you don't.
You don't have to pay workman's comp on them or keep up with all the stuff or. I've had several employees over the years, and I feel responsible for them. Like I'm helping them put food on the table, and if I can't let them down, I maybe it's a fault of mine, but I thought of them like family, and there's a lot of years when we were in business, my employees made more money than I ever thought about making, but I felt like it was the right thing to do. So, long story short, employees are a big responsibility.
Oh yeah, when I had guys working for me, you take on every job. Just so you could keep them working, even if you're not making the money, you're letting them make the money, and you'll make money next week.
Yeah.
But you just take on every job, or and now where I'm by myself, I pick and choose what I want to do, but
right.
Still pick up a labor in the summer.
The other beauty of it is with not having full-time employees is if you want to take off 2 days and come to Florida and hang out with a couple of yahoos at an auction, you can do that. So it's nice to have a little bit of freedom too, because. Whenever you got guys back home working, there's always something. There's always something. So, but we got off subject there a little bit. But so you and your dad are kind of having this conversation about maybe venturing apart here a little bit, and you going full time excavating, and then him continuing in the masonry business.
Yeah. So then I said, you know, it was really hard on him. I seen it was hard on him. So I said, we we're in the winter time. So then I said, no, I'm gonna come back at this next year. And he said, all right. I said, but I can't promise you anymore. I said, you know, I got bigger dreams. I want to own a gravel pit. I want to, you know, own a quarry. I said, you don't want to do that. You don't want to go down the pit. So why do you want to stop my dreams? You know, I said, right. He goes, no, I hear you. So we went in that season, and then we finished that season out, and still had the same equipment, I believe, and things were good. And then I just told him at that end of that season, you know, this was it. I wasn't gonna do the masonry, you know, what we were doing. So I went on my own and bought some more, you know, attachments and whatnot. And that was in 2017, was coming up, and that was 2016. And then so we did a whole year by ourselves. Then I went to work for digging pools for a company. So I did like 60 pools in 1 year. I had me busy as hell, and I was running. I couldn't do that, you know, but doing those pools fine-tuned me big time, because I had 5 guys down in the hole. They're
trimming everything out,
and I'm in there hauling nonstop, and they're like this much more, this and angles and this, that. So you really got me fine-tuned on my sight and everything what was going on.
Yeah, if nobody's ever dug a pool, that's probably one of the more tedious things you can do.
It's sculpting. It's an art, like with an excavator. So I was happy I did it, but I told that guy, I said, listen, I can't, because pools aren't like you don't do 20 of them in one development. He had me from everywhere, and he didn't want to pay the mobilization. I'm like, listen, I can't be running 22 sets of tires all over, and you're not going to pay for it. I mean, I got to pay for it. So I still dig for him here and there when he has one on my side of the river, but that it was good to do that. So then that was 2016, that year. And then the winter came, and my father had some good work that year. He was doing a block job, you know, good year building. He got into some more commercial stuff, and had a few guys working with him. And I was going to help him out that winter, and I didn't. You know, he was struggling with that job, you know, fracture phase 12s, and so he finished it, and then he got sick in the spring, you know.
Yeah, that's tough situation for sure, but it sounds like you guys definitely had a good relationship, though.
Oh, yeah. He was my best man in the wedding.
Yeah.
I mean, we were definitely best friends.
So I guess after your dad passed away, I mean, it's just full bore in the business now.
Yeah. So right after that, after he passed, I took his employee that he had working for him still. My father had jobs going on, so I finished those, let my mother keep that money. For my father. Right. And I closed them jobs all out, and then we shut his business down. I got some trickle effect out of his masonry, but I still had his guys, so I would take the stone jobs that he worked for other GCs. I did that for about a year, and I just was like, I'm not going to do that anymore.
Yeah, you had no intentions of carrying that on. Right. You just need to kind of let the chapter close out.
Yeah. And so then, the next couple of years were really good with, the economy was booming. We had the big, we had Trump in the presidency, and it was good.
So I guess during this time, you're still acquiring equipment. Some of the stuff you got now, I know at some point you bought one of them dreaded orange machines.
Yeah.
Best thing you ever been in, evidently.
Yeah, I got a great deal on that. I bought it from a guy from Alabama. He was doing a hemp farm up.
Well, I'm gonna ask you this a little bit. So what's a great deal on a POS?
I'm telling you, it was a steal.
Man, I don't know. How many hours you got on yours?
It's got 1,300 on it.
Oh well, yeah, you're about 1,000 away from disaster.
I'll get rid of it.
Hey, I can predict your future. I'm just saying.
I don't know that one bracket that you took off, and then it broke. But it's because you put it on without the sequence, right? Nope. You had it, or did it break before that?
Never had that bracket off.
Oh, you didn't.
Nope.
I keep checking that damn bracket. I'm like, oh, there ain't no. It's
but
not
do
loose.
You have the dirt problem in the
dirt funnel? No, he made
that's in the manual.
Right after I did that, he made a short and put it out there, and it got all kinds of views about, hey, Dirt Perfect, check your dirt funnel.
17,000 views. I go, tell Dirt Perfect.
Just wash it out every now and then. It won't be a problem.
There's a little plate there.
Yeah.
Everybody's like, well, just leave the plates out, but it's from
the bottom.
Don't let nothing coming up in too. You know?
It's a crappy
piece of
design.
rebar.
I don't care what you all say.
It's tight. I mean, yours is the same way, right?
Well, his has got a big hole.
I've got a big hole in the side that'll let it out.
Yeah. I mean, dirt will still go down through it, but it's got. I mean that.
The fact of the matter is, Mike, you just got to wash your stuff every now and then.
Didn't we cover this at like?
Do you have a pressure washer?
Huh?
Do you have a pressure washer?
I got 4 of them actually.
Does he use it?
Occasionally, not very often.
Cleveland does.
Yeah, I don't.
I mean, if that didn't freeze, that wouldn't have. That's what broke that.
Yeah, we had a cold snap, and that's what ended up getting me was a freezing. And I had cleaned them out before, but
It's getting hot in here. Isn't it?
Yeah, he cleaned them out. He found that. Oh, that's what that is.
it's
lies. That ain't never been clean since you've had that machine.
Kubota. Oh man. You know, if it's running and I'm sitting in it, operating it, like most times I'm content. But the minute something goes wrong with that thing and I try to fix it, I get so freaking frustrated.
Yeah, but that's any skid steer. They're tight. They're just awkward.
I don't know. There's some other brands
They're
out
not
there.
made to work on.
Right. I mean,
there's a whole lot going on in a very tight
it's a
compartment.
100 horsepower motor. You're sitting on
You're
it.
sitting on it. Literally.
Yeah, I mean it is what it is. So, so the bread and butter of the excavating business at this point is pretty much residential site work.
Yeah, site work for house developments. I work for GC in my town. I'm pretty good friends with him. So, yeah, I mean, just the other random calls I get, and I'm always getting calls to travel. I just don't like to travel too much, but I don't like to go more than 20 minutes. But
that must be nice.
well, I didn't for years. I have to go more than 20 minutes, but now since the economy was kind of hurting, New York got crushed.
Oh yeah, everybody's trying to get out of there,
and it's like
we're coming here.
Yeah, it's tough, and there's a lot of competition where I'm at too. But it's so yeah. I mean,
well, somewhere in this whole crazy adventure, you had this wild idea to start a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
So what was the thought process or the reasoning behind that?
The thought after my father passed, I was like, just thinking about my kids, my great grandkids, everything, and it's like, why not show your legacy, show your, biography of your life. They could always see it,
Document
in the documentary, so.
So that was the driving factor behind doing what you were doing?
Yeah, because I always took pictures like everybody did of their work, and my father's in a million of them. I'm like, the last couple of years, I'm like, get out of the picture. Every picture, you're in it, you're smoking a cigarette, you're scratching your belly, get out of the pictures. I'm posting them on our website. He's like, Jesus Christ. And so I'm like, if I'd started YouTube before that, I'd have at least a year or two of him on YouTube that I could go back and look watch. But
that was kind of, I mean, that wasn't the main factor, but it was one of the things that attracted me to doing it was just documenting your life a little bit. I mean, it's hard to, we can go back and look through photo albums, but, like my dad passed away in an accident, and we do have some videos of him, but it's not like anything we're doing here today.
Right.
And I was going to ask you in the last podcast we did with you, like, do you ever go back and watch any of your old videos and just kind of reminisce about different jobs or different things?
Not really. I mean, I can remember most of them.
Right.
But
I mean, I've already went back.
Every now and then one will pop up, and I just kind of watch it. And then I'm like, where the hell was this one at?
Well, I've only been doing
Why did I say that?
Why did I say that?
Yeah, I've only been doing
Boy, I was stupid back in the day.
I wouldn't do that now.
I wouldn't do that
wasn't
then.
efficient.
Well, I've only been doing it for 3 years, and I mean, I've occasionally, I don't go back and just sit there and get a bag of popcorn and watch my old videos, but every once in a while one will get suggested or one will pop up, and I'll sit there and watch it, and it's just, I'm thinking, this is cool now. It's going to be really cool in 10 years or 20 years or,
I'm more of the person like when we're driving down the road with somebody new. I worked on that, and I did that, I did that.
So,
my father always did that. I built that. Yeah, I worked on that building. He did a lot.
So when did you I come home one day and told Jen I was going to start a YouTube channel, and she just horse laughed me. So you come home and tell the wife you're going to start a YouTube channel. What was your response?
She was supportive right off the bat. She definitely do it. Yeah, you'd be great. Do it. And I was nervous, because public speaking, I could never.
Yeah, I was the
I'll
same
freeze
way.
up.
I
mean, when they called on me in class to read or something, I gotta go to the bathroom. Bye.
too.
You know what I mean?
I was exact opposite.
I could freeze up like what you did at the expo. I wouldn't be able to do that. You know, you did great with that public speaking. You know, so I could talk to a camera. You know, at first I had to wear sunglasses all the time. You know, and then the live feeds were tough for me.
Right.
That was a whole nother ball game. Just because the camera's there and you got to communicate and read, and there was a lot of steps going there. And I like my first live, I was sweating so bad and shaking. I just almost hit the delete. Bye. I couldn't handle it.
I still like to this day be behind the camera.
Yeah,
to show you what's going on.
So my very first, I don't know if you even remember this. You might, but my very first live feed I ever did on my channel, Brandon from Elite Earthworks was down. Jason Works a Lot was down, and Wade was down at the house, and I just hit 1,000 subscribers. And they're like, let's go do a live feed and you celebrate. And I'm like, all right, whatever. I'm just along for the ride. So we're all up in my little cramped little office up there having a good time. I hadn't talked to this guy a day in my life. I never once even said hi to this guy. And Wade's like, we should call Big Deal 18.
Oh, yeah, I remember that phone call.
So he calls Chris and throws the phone down in front of me. He's like, I got to piss. I'll be right back, and just leaves. So here we are I'm trying to have an awkward conversation with him on the live feed. I wanted to make sure he knew he was live because Wade just called him out of the blue. I'm like, oh. So Wade's, so that was my first experience. That was...
Get the shock over with fast for that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure if we did that today, I'd probably be demonetized somehow because Wade was about 9 sheets to the wind, and it was, it was a mess. So, anyways, it just reminded me of that random story. So carrying on, did you have success right off the bat? I didn't know how long you've been doing YouTube.
Same as you. You were probably 6 months before me.
Okay, so a little over 3 years.
Yeah. This is my third season, so no, it's been a struggle. I mean, you get spurts, and it's a lot of times you're just like, whatever. But it took me a year, I think, to get monetized, and then it started to grow pretty good from there.
Yeah, so for what people don't notice, today in YouTube, it's 4K, 1K. It takes 4,000 watch hours, 1,000 subscribers, and you can enter into what they call an AdSense program with YouTube. What was it like whenever you guys started? Do you remember? As far as monetization?
You had to have like at least 1,000 subscribers, and
did they have that all the way back then?
Yeah, that was when it first come out.
And then
and then right before we
that was
started,
your goal to get there.
Right before we started, it went to the 4,000 or the 1,000, and then the 4,000 watch hours.
Yeah,
which was a big
thing.
Jump.
Now it's like,
Yeah, I remember thinking that if I didn't get that within a year, I was probably going to quit, but I was going to give it a full year, and I think I was there in about 2 or 3 months. I can't remember.
Didn't take long.
No, there's a lot of truth to the first 100 subscribers you ever get are probably going to be the hardest.
Yeah.
And then, the first 1,000 are pretty hard to come by. And then I feel like if you hit 1,000, it kind of takes off enough. It keeps you interested.
Yeah, it really starts.
Well, it gives you got to that goal.
Yeah,
and you're like, wait, you don't know what the monetization, what it's going to bring. Yeah. And so you're like, I'm going to keep going.
Right. You're like in a new territory, so you keep plugging.
Plus, once the subscribers start communicating with you, and you're going back, you build relationships, and it was fun, Well, and that's what keeps me going. Is I still got the same subscribers from that first 100 that I talk to, on a regular basis. So,
yeah, I can remember my very first comment. It was like probably 2 days after I posted my first video. And the guy commented, "This channel's going to be awesome. I'm going to subscribe. Thanks." And I think he was like my second or third subscriber.
Really?
And I need to go back on that first video and see if I can find that comment to see if it's somebody I recognize. I just remember the comment, but I don't remember the name.
You can type that in in TubeBuddy. To go into comments, type it in with the word.
Yeah,
it will pop up.
I'll have to search that sometime. Of course, the main reason I remembered it was my first comment I ever got. The most random thing ever, but so yeah. So what is YouTube to you today? Is it a hobby? Is it still documenting life or?
Yeah,
what?
it's company in the excavator. It's when you're bored, you know what I mean?
When you're sitting there talking,
you're sitting there working alone.
Worked all day long,
I feel like I got 30,000 people behind me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like
I've heard you mention that a few times before, that it's, working by yourself. It's kind of a way to feel.
It's boring. I mean, you'll sit there and you're just digging dirt and you're just dozing off. I mean,
apparently I talk enough to keep myself entertained. I keep myself company.
It can get very tired. It's just mentally.
Yeah.
You're just sitting there clearing and moving dirt all day long. You're just sitting there knocking down trees so the stuff ain't fly back and kill you.
Sun starts coming in the cab. You're rocking back and forth.
And it's easy to get complacent and get hurt.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, whenever you're sitting there doing monotonous work or something like that. So, I mean, you've been at it for a little over 3 years now. Where you're north of 30,000 subscribers. I mean, the channel's done decent for sure.
I'm definitely happy with it. Yeah, I wouldn't have thought it would even get. You know what I mean? Nobody thinks that when they're doing it.
You have no idea.
You don't know what it's going to do. And
it seems like all the new channels now, it's either you hit it
or you don't. Yeah,
seems like YouTube, they favor so much on
sure,
they pick the people they want.
Oh, sure, the algorithm, you can't figure it out, and
you're
like, well, why did this video do good? And
it'd be some random video just does phenomenal.
Or you could title something the same exact and as someone else and it won't do it, or
there is one thing, an Aaron Witt podcast I listened to, and I'll have to agree with what he said on there a little bit. And he, somebody asked him about content or whatever, and tagging and descriptions and hashtags and all this stuff. And he said at the end of the day, it's pretty simple. Good content takes care of itself. That's where it all starts at. And I think there's some truth to that, but good content takes care of itself. But if you can mix good content with just a little bit of stuff on the back end, I mean, you can go at it. My biggest advice to anybody that does YouTube or anything in social media is you got to do it for 6 months to a year to find out. You can't do it for 6 weeks and be disappointed you don't have success.
Yeah, you got to have some sort of commitment.
Well, you were just on the last podcast. I mean, I know it was a different time, but you were at it for 10 years, you felt like, before it really started snowballing into something.
Oh, absolutely.
And how many people in your position just would have said the hell with it and quit?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you plugged along with it and look where you're at now. And I mean, that could be Mike in another 10 years if you just keep with it. And then plus you'll have your documentation of the whole life, your whole life along the way, which is really, really, really damn cool. Yeah. So, I mean, do you enjoy it?
Yeah, no, I do enjoy it. And I enjoy editing. You know what I mean? I complain about it, and it's getting easier. It's gotten easier, obviously. Right. You get a system down. But the first year was just like, it really hurt my business because instead of when I would come home, I would get in that office and start editing instead of going out and looking at jobs.
Right.
I'd spend 4 hours editing, and I'm like, I just blew off 10 jobs. You know what I mean? It really was hurting me.
The biggest trick to editing is learning how to film.
Right. You can shortcut it for sure.
Best thing you can do is learn how to film right.
Right.
It don't take much to edit, and that's where I've got that down pat now.
No, I agree with that 100%. I mean, if the red light's flashing, it better be something usable where you're clipping ends and piecing together. And I mean, I wouldn't say any of us add a whole lot of finesse or anything extra to our videos. It's true reality life. I mean, I don't want to say we're reality TV because I guess we're on TV to some aspects, but what you see is what you get. It's what we're living that day.
Yeah. Different part of the country.
Nobody's trying to add drama. Nobody's trying to, do any catchy thumbnails or anything like that. It's just reality.
Honestly,
stuff.
Sometimes we have to edit it down because you just can't put it on YouTube.
Yeah.
They got their restrictions of what they feel is necessary to put on there, and you have to be respectful of that. Or
that's the scary part too. Is YouTube's kind of in control to some extent.
You can be one slip up away, it's just done.
Gone.
Yeah, it's wild. So what's your biggest positive? What's your biggest takeaway from YouTube, or what was your biggest surprise you got out of YouTube?
Just the friends, the subscriptions, all that. You know what I mean? Meeting people.
Right.
Going to Lowville was, I would have never thought that would happen.
Right.
That was awesome. That was a hell of an experience.
We're pretty fortunate too, because the more subscribers we get, you're talking about with your haul truck, the bigger database we get too, because it's to the point.
Oh yeah, I get one problem. I can be like, 10, 15 people send me an email, and be like,
here's a diagram.
I'll be damned.
Well, even the other day, Charlie's like, come down and do a video on my truck. I'm having problems with it.
Yeah, he's like, fix this. He's like, the dealer can't figure it out. Maybe a YouTuber can.
And 9 times out of 10, there's somebody out there.
There's a lot of smart people in this world.
You got to weed through a few of them, but you'll find them.
Yeah,
you'll find the one guy.
Everybody's got an opinion, but somebody in there, you read through it, will actually know what they're talking about.
Yeah, find the right part. So, I think we've all said that before. Is the people. Yeah. I mean, YouTube does a really good job of aligning like-minded people together, and it's cool. One of the neatest things for me is I'm a curious guy. I like learning and seeing the way Chris does stuff in North Carolina and the way you guys got to do stuff in upstate New York, and then Jay Pay Dirt out in Utah or Montana,
Idaho.
It was Colorado.
Colorado. Jeff, where are you at? I think it's Idaho.
It sounds like we need to do a podcast with Jeff.
He's out there.
So we'll just call him out west. And then we got a lot of guys from overseas. Seeing the way those guys do stuff overseas is
that one channel those boys got those 2 D11s.
Yeah, what are
they? They're in Australia, the something brothers.
Brothers, yeah. They've always got one stuck.
Oh, yeah. I'm like, my God, let's just get 2 D11s and just push. Jackson Brothers.
Brothers, yeah, that's what it is. So, well, we can't let you go without talking about your famous neighbor.
Famous neighbor, yep, the old AC himself.
Oh, so how close does Andrew live to you?
He door to door, probably 50 minutes.
Really?
Yeah.
So have you ever crossed paths with him or seen anything he's done in person?
Worked in the same town,
right.
But no, never crossed paths.
I just feel like if you're 50 minutes away, like he'd be a legend in the small town, just not because of his YouTube channel, just because of some of the shenanigans he does. Like
right. No, they all know him in that town. You say his name, they know him, and I don't know if it is because of the YouTube or just because of who he is. But
I'd love to get him on the podcast one day, and maybe we'll be able to swing that. But he's. I think he's so interesting because he goes about everything so different than what we do. Like, we go about it methodically and have a plan, and he just...
Bull in the china
He's
shop.
Not afraid just to grab the bull by the horns and get it done.
Get it done,
And, if it works, it works. So, Jesse Mueller is also up in your part. You said you've talked to him
a few
times.
I've talked to him quite a bit. He's about 20 minutes from me.
He seems...
I got a house going right in his town, actually like a mile from where his new house is.
Right.
He
seems... I've talked to him a few times on email and comments, never in person, but he seems to be pretty legit guy.
Yeah. And he started, when he first started YouTube, he just had a little John Deere excavator, and he evolved. He's evolved,
Yeah, I was asking you about that. So I thought he started after he helped Andrew, but he was actually doing it before he helped Andrew.
Yeah, he had a channel that just to probably won't only his family subscribe. Just a couple people, and then he worked on it. Andrew showed him how to edit and do stuff like that. He says you got to clean this up, blah blah blah, and started making videos as he was working with Andrew,
Yeah.
And then he got the hang of it and started making his own stuff, bought some trucks or...
Yeah, he's kind of a true story, and I guess he's pretty well documented on YouTube of a guy that's kind of started working his way up through the equipment. He's still in the process of doing that as well. So
he's not afraid to rip stuff apart and fix it, no doubt. He'll open up a dozer.
One thing that we take for granted a whole lot growing up is, with our phones in our hands, we have access to so much information. And if you're willing to take the time and to read and research, you can
pretty well figure it out.
You can pretty well figure it out within reason, which is, I'm old enough. I remember being in school and doing, a report on a president and going to the library and pulling out the encyclopedias.
Absolutely, me too.
I don't know if the word encyclopedia is even in the dictionary anymore. You know what I mean? It's just a thing of the thing of the past.
Document all your sources there now. It's like,
oh, that's right. You had where did you iPhone?
iPhone.
So
library? What?
I just remember growing up and parents always saying, "Well, back whenever I was a kid, now here I am saying the same thing, about whenever I was a kid, how things were so different. It's just crazy how it's changed so much over the years. So, Well, before we wrap up with you, Mike, I mean, what's the direction of the channel and the business? And you just keep on plugging on down the path?
Yeah, same thing. Keep going. Just plug along.
I mean, you kind of run the same way Chris and I do. Pretty lean and mean, and no employees. You're pretty much the main guy, and pick up somebody when you need.
It's got to get done. You're going to do it with employees or without.
With or without.
It's like it's easy. It's easier to do them with. I mean, maybe it's not easier. I got guys that.
Well, I think we all three here sitting here agree that, a lot of times less is more. Trying to, I know you guys got a lot of equipment and people comment all the time that you need more operators, and more operators don't always mean more profit.
Mm-hmm. Look what happened to Charlie tonight,
Yeah.
Accidents happen, and it's like a lot of trust factor there.
Well, it is, and it's at some point, whenever you get that much going on, you become not a productive employee of the business, but you become a manager. So
yeah,
you lose your own.
As much.
You're the most productive person in the business, and you become unproductive because you're managing people, and it just becomes a rat race, and everybody's chasing their tail, and it's a big old mess. So I don't know. I'm a firm believer in bigger is not better, and sometimes less is more. And the most important number in the book's the profit margin, and that's what you got to go off of. It's not the revenue. Everybody gets caught up in the revenue. It's not about the revenue. It's about the profit.
That's right.
So
it's like Tony Beats and his dredge.
That's a whole podcast.
That's a whole another one right there. But I wouldn't foresee anything changing in the near future.
No. Well, Mike, man, I appreciate you coming to Florida and hanging out with us and sitting down and kind of telling us your story a little bit.
Man, I appreciate it.
Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Chris, thank you for being an awesome co-host here and sitting in for Mr. Works a lot.
A whole lot tonight.
Yeah, I feel like I really upgraded co-host here. Nothing against.
I know this is great.
Nothing against Jason. We'll be glad to have him back. Back soon. So, all right, guys, thanks for listening. We're going to wrap it up, and we'll catch you on the next one.